Steven Shred, hello. I hope you're doing all right. It's been a long time, quote unquote. No, we're recording multiple videos in a row, but let's get right into it. We have UFC 310 coming up. It's going to take place in Las Vegas. Pantoja versus Kai Asakura, the new bantamweight in the UFC, is coming over from RIZIN. We have a bunch of other good fights, but I just want to get into all of them. I want to talk about the whole event, and I want to talk about who Kai Asakura is. So let's get right into it. Steven, do you want to go from top, bottom, or bottom up for the card? Because I just want to go over like some of the more notable fights. I mean, this card is stacked, so I don't really want to like say notable fights when damn near the entire thing can go either way.
Let's go bottom up so we could talk a little bit about Kai Asakura.
Okay, so let's just start early prelims. Look, notable names on the card: Kennedy Ncheku. That's hard to say that 5 times fast. Clay Guida and Chase Hooper. Right, you got old dog versus young dog. That one's gonna be good. I know Clay Guida's been wanting younger fighters. He hasn't been wanting all the established guys. I think he made that known during a post-fight interview one time. Chase Hooper finally like looks like a man. Like he doesn't look like a kid anymore. He maybe has like some facial features, but like is finally like, no, he probably has grown man strength now. Do you see Clay Guida getting out of that with the win, or does Chase Hooper kind of keep this momentum going?
I think based on what we've seen from Chase Hooper, I think he takes it. The grappling is on point, but the big thing as of late is his striking has gotten so much better, and his power punching, like he's actually taking guys out, and that's
Yes.
insane.
Yep. Let's see. So in 2022, knocked out Steve Garcia, knocks out Felipe Corrales, gets a submission over Jordan Levitt, gets a decision over Nick Fiore, and then most recently gets the submission over Vyacheslav Borchev.
Which was one that I did not see coming.
Yeah, usually you fade the EV, right? The EV, the OVs, all the Magomedovs, all the Russian names. You usually fade those, but I think that was the one where Chase Hooper's like, okay, like I think he's ready to start getting top level talent, and for a guy like Clay Guida, who, let's not mince any words here, let's be straight and direct, he's on his way out. I don't know how many more fights he can have. I'm not saying he can't win. That's what makes Clay Guida probably like one of the like most fun fighters to watch, is because of like his longevity. But the UFC wants to set up Chase Hooper, right? Like they don't want him to lose here, or do they?
Yeah,
You know, they don't care either way. I mean,
I think they want to set up Chase Hooper to be one of these guys coming up, especially after beating somebody that I thought was gonna win, because every time Slava Claus comes up, man, got my vote, but Chase Hooper did it, and I feel like he's already been a name where we've kind of been following his career since at the time he was the youngest UFC fighter coming in. So to go through all of that, and now where we see his game's evolved a lot,
mm-hmm.
I think they want to push him. And I think even though Clay Guida doesn't have the record right now, he's a name and he's been in the sport so long that if you have a win over him, it's a notable win. It's like beating Jim Miller, or in the heavyweight division, it's like beating Andrei Arlovsky.
Yeah,
Like Jim Miller's a bad example because he's been on a tear.
yeah,
But the fact that it's the guy who's been doing it for so long that if you have a win over him, it's like, I know who that is.
mm-hmm.
So now you could start arguing for, okay, let's start giving him some of the top 10 talent, top 5 talent. Let's start talking about getting him into these bigger fights.
Yeah. And you know what? In the lightweight division, I don't think he has any shortage of good fights. If you wanted to slow build it, I mean, maybe a fight with Patty and Chase, if you get away with it, Let's move on though, because there's so many fights on this card, and it is ridiculous how how spoiled we are this weekend coming up. Uh,
Yeah.
Michael Chiesa, Max Griffin. Look, this is just two veterans. They're about to go at it. I dig it. 19-7 for Michael Chiesa, Max Griffin 20-10. Look, giving Michael Chiesa to edge this out in a decision. Um, I think if you've watched enough MMA, you know how both these guys are going to come out. Um, I think because of the age, I mean, sure they can strike more and maybe not as much wrestling, but I could still see a lot of this fight ending on or against the cage with a lot of like just cage wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that. But my whole thing is just how good Chiesa is on the ground. I feel like if he's able to get his way, we could see this easily ending in a submission.
I mean, look, they both have great grappling abilities. I'd say Michael Chiesa more so clearly. Max Griffin probably slightly better striking. I'd comparable though.
Yeah.
I think they're both comparable. Um, if Chiesa can get there early and get an early submission victory, that's going to be the best case scenario. Um, for Max Griffin, I think his way of winning is probably edging out a decision. I just don't see
Yeah.
him finishing Michael Chiesa. And I don't know. I mean, they've both faced high level competition, so you can't say that they both won't have high level fight IQ. It's it's a good fight overall, I think. Do you think it's as simple as like striker versus grappler, or is there more to this?
Uh to a degree, but I also feel that Chiesa has really found his way in this weight division. And I feel like there is going to be that because Chiesa's a lot bigger and a lot stronger at this weight in this weight.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's going to be a full on like, you're better at this, I'm better at that kind of deal. But there is the possibility that Max Griffin just looks way better on the feet. But I would also say that Chiesa has never really looked terrible on the feet or anything. Like, he could strike.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just gonna be a matter of when things get up close, is Chiesa gonna be able to take it to the ground and finish it out, or are we gonna keep a little distance and go back and forth and see, who could rock who, or who could absorb the most leg kicks, kind of deal.
Yeah. Moving up, I guess moving down to the flyweight division. Uh, Cody Durden, I think coming off of a win over, what was it? Yeah, Charles Johnson. Got a decision over Charles Johnson back in August. 17-6, one draw. Stands at 5'7". Joshua Van, who always comes ready to just brawl. If I'm being real with you, this dude can throw down. He's got solid grappling. Um, he is entering the bout after a unanimous decision win over Edgar Chairez in September. So both these guys are kind of just on a collision course. I think both these guys are just in the. I mean, Cody Durden's been around a lot longer than Joshua Van, but we're starting to see these guys who are 11-1, 10-1, 9 and something, and they're coming up and they're fighting high level fights. And I think in the flyweight division, this has a lot of implications. I would not be surprised if this is like for a top level spot here. You know what I mean? And to get a pretty high level fight next time after this, I see Joshua Van winning this via knockout. It's just hard to ride against him. But I wouldn't throw out Cody Durden. Who do you got for this one?
I'm gonna go Joshua Van as well, but the flyweight division is just everyone in there is just so good. And talking about the winner of this going on to the next level of competition, it's just like that's where it starts getting real shaky. You're just like 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 I don't even know how to go about this anymore.
I Yeah, the flyweight division. So honestly, if I'm pulling up the rankings here, so we have, let's see. So obviously Pantoja's sitting there, nice and pretty at the top, right? Man of the hour. Um, think about it. So Cody Durden's your number 14 guy. Um, I mean, any of these fights are appealing. Manel Cobb, Tim Elliott, Ulanbekov, Bruno Silva. Amir Albazi is waiting in the wings there. I mean, I know he's up top. Um, but I mean, like a Manel Cobb fight would be great. You know what I mean? Like I can see that happening. I could see the Bruno Silva fight if they haven't already fought. Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, um, who's? I mean, oh man, where's his? There we go. Are you a sure dog guy or are you a Tapology kind of guy?
I am I'm an efficiency guy, so I just go to Wikipedia.
I
Those pages take a little too long to load in.
you know, honestly, as I'm like struggling to get the page to load in, that's
Yep.
but
They take a little too long to load in, so I just go to Wikipedia,
yeah, no, I get
and
you.
it's just right there.
Yep. All right. Let's keep it going.
Mhm.
Um the American wrestler, everyone knows him for probably having the craziest amount of like, I don't know, voodoo. It's not luck, but Chris Weidman taking
Yeah,
on Eric Anders in a catch weight. I didn't even see that this was going to be a catch weight. What are they fighting at?
that is a very good question.
Weidman versus Anders. I don't know why I didn't see this until. I don't think it's going to say. Um, so this fight was canceled at 3:09 due to Anders having a medical issue. Eric Anders is 2-3 in his last five. They're both actually 2-3 in their last five. They both have a one fight win streak here. Um, Chris Weidman, 40 years old. Eric Anders, 37. You got to imagine time is kind of ticking for both of these guys. Um, I mean, look, this fight, whoever wins it, I just don't think it has major implications in the division. I think these are just guys you throw at each other for name value, or to just give them a fight that they kind of deserve. So, you know, they're both not being fed to the wolves here, but they both are going to have a tough night out for each other. Chris Weidman, if he comes to wrestle and looks like he's in top form, I think that could be a tough day for Eric Anders, but I don't like how Chris has been looking as of late. And it's just, we'll see. I mean, he did get the win over Bruno Silva. Um, Obviously, he took the loss to Brad Tavares. I don't think anyone blames him because that was his first fight after the injury.
Yeah.
So I think it's a toss up between who can win here. I'm gonna go with Chris Weidman just because I've always been a Chris Weidman fan ever since the Anderson knockout. And so it's kind of hard to go against that.
Yeah, which is fair enough. I think I'm gonna lean more on the underside. I think he's gonna most likely edge out a decision.
All right. Moving into the prelims card. So we were on the early prelims. Now we're moving to the prelim card.
Mhm.
Again, this thing is just stacked. Probably one of my favorite prospects coming up. Brian Battle's taking on Randy Brown. Look, Brian Battle has had 2 losses, I think, now inside of the UFC. He went to a draw against Angelusa. Or Angelusa. Does he have a loss? Yeah, because I want to say his loss was early in his career, wasn't it?
Trying to remember.
Gilbert
I
Urbina. You know what? He probably has one loss outside of the UFC.
Yeah, I think he's been on. I think he's been on a streak in the UFC. Besides the no contest because the Lusa dude faked the eye poke thing.
I do. Yeah. You know what? Now that you're saying that, dude, I'm so glad I have you on the show. Um, yes, you're right. If and honestly, he's coming off of a performance of the night against Kevin Juice or Juicette. Kevin Juicy? Kevin Juice? Um,
We'll go with one of those.
one of the so I think he's coming into his prime right now. I think we are about to see a incredible performance from Brian Battle. This guy can scrap. We have been watching him since The Ultimate Fighter, and yeah, I just don't think Randy Brown gets out of this. He's coming off of some good wins himself. He does have some losses to some guys that you don't really shake your head at all. I just want you to hear these losses real fast.
Okay.
Bilal Muhammad, Nico Price, Vicente Luque, Jack Della Maddalena. He lost in a grappling match to Hene Souza, but fine. But just those names alone, just those four names: Bilal Muhammad, Nico Price, Jack Della Maddalena, and Vicente Luque. His loss to Bilal was back in 2017. His loss to Nico 2018, lost to Luque in 2020, and then 2023 lost to JDM.
Yeah.
That's for Randy Brown. These aren't names that you scoff at. However, when you're talking about fighting the top of the food chain, you have to beat some of these guys. And the wins that he does have, Worley Alves, Brian Barberena, I guess the Mickey Gall win doesn't really age as well. Muslim Salikov, right? Like Wellington Turman, I guess, is like the bigger name and all of that. But again, he's not beating the guys he needs to beat. And yeah, I see a decisive fight here for Brian Battle. Am I wrong? Am I way off? What do you think here?
I feel the same thing. Brian Battle just looks so good. Hits hard, striking's good, super dominant against the cage.
Mm-hmm.
Just really big, long guy, and just works so well in that weight division. And I see him either coming out and getting either an early knockout or a super decisive decision win. And hopefully that sets him up to start getting some like bigger names because I would love to see how he does against the top competition because he's looked amazing so far. But like we're talking about, or like you were just saying,
Mm-hmm.
you got to get in there, you got to beat these top guys to actually establish yourself. So I'd love to see how he starts doing with a higher level competition, so that we really get to see how far his prime goes.
All right. I moving into this next fight, I just want to get your opinion on something real fast.
All right.
Have we ever had a prior champion come into another division and not get a title shot after a win in the next division that you go into? Because Aljamain Sterling beat Calvin Kattar, right? In a decision at UFC 300. Okay, beats Calvin Kattar. How do they reward him? They put him on a prelim card, which again, I guess this is not exactly the way to put it because this entire card is stacked. So wherever you fall in this card, it's not a problem. But they're giving him Movsar Evalev. They're doing this dude no justice.
Yeah.
No justice. This is the hardest fight probably for Aljamain Sterling in that division. His wrestling defense is going to have to be so on point. Otherwise, this is going to be a boring decision fight. Do you think Aljamain can keep this fight standing? Do you think he has a chance? Or, because Aljamain wrestles too. Can he out wrestle Movsar?
That is the question because it's one thing to it's one thing to think about. It's another thing to actually see. Like just a little bit ago, we had Robert Whitaker and Hamzat Chimaev.
Hmm.
I said that his wrestling defense would work, and it didn't.
Fair enough.
But thinking about Aljamain, his pressure and his ability to wrestle, you know, I think that he'll be able to keep it competitive. Maybe he gets taken down a few times. I don't think it's going to be an absolute domination. I don't think we're going to see like what Marab did to Sean O'Malley or anything like that.
Hmm.
But the striking is going to make the difference. Aljamain's striking has looked really good, and I think he could show a little more in this fight than he did in the Calvin Kattar fight. And I think that's why we didn't get a well, two reasons why I don't think he got higher up on the totem pole for winning a fight. One, it was a lackluster performance. A lot of people were not very happy with the way that Aljamain fought that.
Hmm.
And two, I think featherweight is so convoluted right now with the way everything is set up, like with who's fighting who and with championship fights and everything that's going on, that I don't think that they really have anybody that's ready to go because I think everybody's just kind of waiting for everybody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if we look at the top featherweight rankings here, Ilya there at the champ spot, Alex Volkanovski. I don't. I think he moves to 55.
I mean, they're talking about Volk and Diego Lopez, but at the same time, now they're saying Diego Lopez and why I can't think of his name. He knocked out Bryce Mitchell.
Oh, Josh Emmett.
Yeah, Josh Emmett, which kind of makes sense, but also kind of doesn't, because I don't know.
I
Weird
I
decision.
I don't mind Josh getting his shot there at the top because the dude has insane performances, and that knockout over Bryce Mitchell is probably one of the. That was one of the ones where it's like, oh, he's still out. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was just like one of those things where like you just. I don't know why I didn't expect that result. But it was just one of those things where it's like Josh Emmett still hits like a truck, and that fight
You,
proved it.
you want to know who did expect that?
Did you get that on your
This
verdict
guy.
pick?
Round one knockout, baby.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, that was a wild one though. Like that was the fight after when Bryce Mitchell brought in the Bible and was like shouting at everyone. So I was just like, round one knockout, let's go, let's go.
I you know what? Understandable.
But yeah, I think that's why Aljamain didn't get a higher shot because if we talk about Jose Aldo moving to what can I think
35.
135.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and any other time that any champion has moved anywhere else, they do get, the top like top competition like
Mm-hmm.
immediately. But I think those two factors go into Aljamain not getting it, you know. He gets in there, he just boring performance, and then everybody's trying to fight everybody in there, you got Diego Lopez, you got Yair, you got Brian Ortega, you got Volk. Max isn't there anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
then you got Ilya. Like there's so many guys just like, no, no, I'm waiting to fight this guy. No, I'm waiting to fight this guy. No, I need to fight for the championship. That I think they're just like, all right, you want to just take this undefeated dude?
Yeah, and it's if because at some point, yes, Aljo would have to fight this guy because he's probably going to fight for the title. And at some point, you have to go through him. I thought it was weird. Even if he had a lackluster performance, it's are we going off of wins and who these guys are beating, or should we only count how they perform inside of those wins? I think it's obviously a mixture of both. It's not always, you know, it's not always black and white. Sometimes it's a little gray area. But let's move on just before we get too carried away here.
We'll make an entire video on that later or
yes,
something.
please let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Is Aljamain Sterling getting kind of like screwed here? Like I just
getting a little sidelined.
Get a little bit. And look, you can't put it past the whole thing with his best buddy in the whole wide world, Marab, and everything that happened there, because that pissed off a lot of fans too. Don't get me wrong. That pissed me off included. Just because you guys are in this business. Go and make money. Like, for the love of God, just you guys could have made money. But whatever. Vicente Luque and
real quick though.
Yes,
I will say I did like what Marab said. He's like, a lot of people like to bring that up, but never once did that fight ever come to our table.
Mm.
You know, he's like, people like to say we wouldn't fight each other, but never once was it actually offered. So we never actually did decline it.
Ooh.
So that's all I'll say. We can talk about that another time.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, if that topic ever comes up again, or if people want us to talk about that, I am more than willing to talk about that, because that is something that I think it's a hot button issue for certain fans. But if we're moving forward here in the welterweight division, Vicente Luque taking on Thimba Garimbo. Thimba Garimbo, I believe, is coming off of he's coming off a decision victory over Nico Price.
Which was a super definitive win too.
Yes. Luque coming off of a win. No, I'm sorry. He just took a loss actually to Joaquin Buckley back in March. Joaquin
Buckley, very decisive loss.
Unfortunately. But you know what, Joaquin Buckley, it feels like the guy is still getting better. And I don't think we've even seen the top of his performance yet.
Yeah, maybe we see it against Colby.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
It'd be pretty cool.
It would be nice. Both these guys, 33. Vicente Luque does have way more mileage when it comes to MMA in general. 22-10 with one draw. Thimba Garimbo, 14-4. There's a bit of a height and reach advantage here for Thimba Garimbo. Both fighting orthodox. Thimba Garimbo, I don't know too many fighters from Zimbabwe. Am I tripping?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of one.
It's not necessarily.
I'm sure somebody in the comments will be like, "Yo, you guys forgot about this guy.
You guys are stupid. How can you guys not forget about this champion?" I'm like, "Oh, my bad, dude. I'm sorry."
Whoops. We apologize ahead of time.
Look, Luque's Muay Thai background complements his knockout power. Garimbo has demonstrated effective striking with a higher significant strike accuracy, 61% compared to Luque's 52%. Garimbo's wrestling is noticeable, averaging 4.89 takedowns per 15 minutes with the 65% takedown accuracy, potentially changing Luque's 62% takedown defense. Where does this fight take place? Is it striking? Is it grappling? Should we expect it back and forth?
I think based off of the last performances of both of them, I am going Garimbo. I think for the most part, we're going to stay standing. I think there's going to be heavy exchanges, and then it's going to be a lot of, who could hold who the most.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we see a lot on the ground. I could be wrong, but I think we see a lot of striking, and I think we see Garimbo really show us what he's got. Because Vicente Luque is a guy who not only has a lot of mileage, but he has mileage against a super high level of competition. Like, you name the who's who in welterweight, it's very likely that Vicente Luque has fought them.
Yeah, I mean, let's just take a look. Rafael Dos Anjos, Joff Neal, Bilal Muhammad, Michael Chiesa, Tyron Woodley, Randy Brown, Nico Price. Look, these are guys he just fought, like, within the past couple years, within the past 3 years.
Yep.
Stephen Thompson, Mike Perry, Brian Barberena, Jalen Turner, Nico Price again, Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad again. And don't get me, he has wins over these guys. He has wins over Bilal. He has wins over Nico Price. He has wins over Jalen Turner, Mike Perry, Tyron Woodley,
Yeah.
Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, which the Mike Perry win was an absolute war. That was the one where Mike Perry's nose was completely flat to his face.
Yeah. And you know how hard of a dude. Wait, pause. You know how crazy Mike Perry can get inside of the cage. I think he excels more in bare knuckle boxing, and I think he's doing a different promotion now. But it just speaks to the level that, like you said, Vicente Luque has been fighting at for all of these years, and you cannot take that away. I think he is a live dog in this fight. I would favor Thimba Garimbo to win this, but I would not count Vicente Luque out. This is a fight that is very dangerous for Garimbo. I think if there are no other fighters from Zimbabwe, I think he's trying to put Zimbabwe up on the map here. And we'll see how this fight goes. This is a fun one. Let's not forget, this fight is taking place because Nick Diaz could not fight.
Yeah.
So this is Garimbo's first fight against a ranked UFC opponent. And this is an opportunity for Luque to, I guess, make more of a stamp inside of the welterweight division, because I think a win over Nick Diaz wouldn't have done much for him.
Yeah, especially based off of the last Nick Diaz fight, where he basically just said, "Nah, I'm done.
Yep.
I'm good."
Yep. And
Took
that
a few hits from Robbie Lawler and was just like, you know what? I'm cool.
Yep. Now one of my buddies actually just got to see this fighter. I'm gonna ask him if I can put up the photo. But Dominic Reyes is taking on Anthony Smith in the prelim headliner here. Dominic Reyes 13-4, Anthony Lionheart Smith 38-20. Do you think Dominic Reyes talks shit about Anthony Smith's family?
I think
I'm sorry.
Anthony Smith thinks he does.
What is with this, dude? I don't understand this. Anthony Smith did it, right?
Yeah.
John Jones just did it. I don't like it. The mindset that these guys have to get into. I get it. You are about to go in there and stop just short of killing a dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like I watch a good amount of Eddie Hall, and he was talking about before he did his 1,100-pound deadlift
Mm-hmm.
that he took himself completely out of it by tricking himself into believing that he was lifting a car that was, that had his kids in it. So it's like, I get it, but yeah, it makes for weird clips. The whole like, you attacking my family, and Johnny Walker, what?
What are you talking about? It's. I think, however, they have to get there to do it, and I understand. Dominic Reyes is arguably the only fighter that many people believe beat John Jones.
Yep.
And I think since that fight, I mean, it just hasn't been a good run for him. So he lost to John Jones, lost to Jan Blachowicz, loses to Yuri Prohashka, he loses to Ryan Spann. Again, no one's like tripping out. I think it's how he's losing. Okay. Now, he has a win over Dustin Jacoby, and I think that was a great win for him. He got the knockout first round. But before,
can you actually give me 1 second?
Yeah.
I will be right back.
No, do what you gotta do.
All right. Does this look like the same position I was sitting in?
Yeah, you'd be all right.
All right. I had to get this.
I'm just gonna cut the show right there. It's just gonna go from fucking nothing to that. Like
full steel freaking Buster Sword from Final Fantasy.
Oh
7,
my
dude.
god, you fucking
This
nerd!
thing is 5 feet tall, dude.
It
is heavy.
What are you gonna do with it? Photo op or what?
Just to have. I don't know if you can see my hand shaking. This thing is heavy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna clean it up, and I'm gonna get the little jewel things put him in there, a little materia, and just I don't know, make it like nice.
All right. I see it. I see you.
And my
I
friend was selling it for like $100, so I'm like, fuck it.
fuck it, he says.
Dude, made my bicep pop though.
Hey.
Hell yeah.
There you go from holding it.
Yeah, because we were talking outside and I was like holding on my shoulder. So it's just like supporting all that weight on my shoulder. I'm just like, ah.
All right. Let's see. So I guess heading back to it, Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith. They have their fight. They're matched up here in the prelims headliner. I would not mind it if Dominic Reyes came out with the win. But if I'm being real with you, Anthony Smith's always kind of a dog. Like I think he's always kind of game to get into a firefight, whatever mental gymnastics he has to do to get into that. I'm okay with that. I'm hoping there's nothing wrong sports performance mental wise when it comes to Dominic Reyes. Because if you can almost make people think that you beat John Jones, you have to be feeling good. Like you got to trust that your skills are there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to say give me Dominic Reyes to win via knockout. I think he gets another knockout win here.
You definitely see it, especially with the trajectory that Anthony Smith has been on these last few years. You know, I could definitely see a knockout happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just saw Dominic Reyes get one earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this would definitely be the time to have this fight. And if Dominic Reyes was ever going to turn it around, it would be here.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Smith has a very crackable chin. And if Dominic Reyes could come in confident, feeling good, I think he gets it.
Yeah. I agree.
But then the question after that is, you know, where do we go from there, though?
Mm-hmm. Oh well, I mean, from there for Dominic Reyes or Anthony Smith, I mean, think about it. At light heavyweight, I think anything is possible in that division right now. Sure, you have Alex Pereira, and he's there at the top, and he's doing his thing. But if you're considering the rest of the level of talent there, I just don't. I don't see the 205 division being too hard to obtain. In terms of the, you know, comparatively to the rest of the divisions, I think it's the most up in the air at any point. The belt can probably shift. Pereira looks unbeatable, but I mean, is that because of his skill level, like, and the skill ceiling being so up there, or is it just because of the unpredictability of the 205 division?
I mean, we almost saw Khalil get the upset.
Yeah, Khalil looked good. I think he looked good until he didn't. And then Pereira kind of just took over, got the shots in that he needed, and then got the win.
Yeah, we even saw him get dropped.
Yeah,
which I did not see coming. The moment Khalil dropped Alex, I was just like, what?
And he took a hell of a beating, but it was never like Khalil. It wasn't until that finishing sequence where I was like, okay, like he's done. Let's get him out of here. The rest of the fight was competitive, even if Pereira was winning. On the cards, it was still competitive for the most part, and I think that's a large majority of the lightweight division or light heavyweight division. Even with guys like Jamal Hill, right, which we just had a whole thing. Even with guys like Jamal Hill, he still has one-shot capability, and it's not something that Alex or the rest of these guys don't know in the division. Like everyone can crack hard. They're one weight class away from being heavyweights, and most of these guys walk around at heavyweight. You know, so I do see Dominic Reyes getting this, but look for Anthony Smith to probably pull the upset here.
Fair
Um,
enough.
let's move on to our main card, and starting off the whole fight card here for the main event is Nate the Train Landwehr taking on Choi Duho, I think. Um,
Yeah.
Nate the Train
Give me one
Landwehr.
second. Let me close the door real quick.
Yep, do what you gotta.
Sorry about that.
Good.
All right.
All right. Nate the Train Landwehr. Honestly, the dude, he's game for anything, dude. I love this dude. Um, and he always has like some of the funniest like post fight interviews. The dude's
Yeah.
coming off of a win from Jamal Emmers. He did lose to Dan Ige recently, but he is 4-1 in his last 5. 4-2 in his last 6. But the dude's got some really good wins, if I'm being honest with you. Jamal Emmers, Austin Lingo, Ludovic Klein, Darren Elkins. These are guys that are in any smaller regional scene, they're tearing it up in those scenes, and he's game to fight them all. He fits the featherweight build just fine. He's 5'9". He is getting a little bit older now. He's 36 years old, and in the lighter weight classes, it typically doesn't hold well for your brain and how well the oxygen flows up there, which means you are somewhat more susceptible to getting knocked out. But Nate has a giant fucking head, so he can kind of take some of these shots. Duho Choi, they call him the Korean Superboy.
Yep.
15-4, has 1 draw, fights with Busan Team Mad. Coming off a win from Bill Aggio, TKO submission to punch. So that's kind of dude said, I'm done. Which is fine. He had a draw with Kyle Nelson, then had a couple losses. Cup Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, Charles Jourdain. So this fight can go either way. He does have a win over Diego Tavares. Nothing to scoff at. But other than that, I mean, he's not exactly fighting guys that you know too well here. And I don't know. At 5'9", he also kind of, I think they're about the same. Nate might have a little bit more width in terms of the body, but I this can kind of go either way. Both these guys can crack. How do you see this?
This could honestly go either way. I do think that Landwehr is going to most likely take it.
Mm.
I think, not to say that, was it Duho
Yeah.
isn't game, but how game Nate is always a big factor for me going into it. Because when you have somebody pressing you that hard,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then things could happen.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's. I think it's gonna be both of their game plan. Both these guys like to push forward. They like to press, and it should be a fun fight for the fans. I would expect a knockout here. I don't think this goes the distance. One of these guys is getting. I don't think flatline. I think these guys. It's gonna be TKO. But I would not be upset with a flat out knockout. Let's keep it moving here.
Mm-hmm.
The next fight on the card here, we have Bryce Mitchell taking on Kron Gracie. Bryce Mitchell, he's a fan favorite for a lot of people, and I think it's because of his personality. I know some people really don't like some of the antics. I would almost say that he reminds me of a fighter from a different generation, meaning he has one style. He likes to wrestle.
Yeah.
If he cannot wrestle, he will not win. Ilya Taporia got the submission on him. I got the arm triangle choke. Josh Emmett got one of the craziest knockouts I had seen in a long time off of him. Kron Gracie, however, right, 5-2. His last 2 fights look awful.
The butt scoot extraordinaire.
The butt scoot extraordinaire. Kron Gracie is everything that I hate about jiu-jitsu. and don't get me wrong, this is a dude that can fucking tap all these guys. Okay, fine. We're not doing jiu-jitsu. We're doing fucking MMA. And what kills me is that you are going to give up such a huge offensive advantage by being on your ass. You cannot create torque in the leg, in the arms. You cannot create hip-shoulder separation to get a good punch in if you are on your fucking ass. And that it pisses me off in such a specific way because I do jiu-jitsu and I tell people it's a great sport for self-defense. It's a great sport for getting in shape. It's fun for competitions and stuff. Sure, there's injury that can happen, stuff like that. That's every sport. That's anything in life. Kron Gracie cannot mitigate that much of harmfulness. He has to go and take risks. He has to be a fucking striker. And he cannot win this fight through submission grappling alone. So I'm going to say Bryce Mitchell gets this done. I think it's going to be a decision. I think it's going to be a whatever fight. Like, I just don't see it being fun. And I think Kron makes it boring. I think Bryce is going to do what he can, but if he doesn't have to take additional damage, I don't think he should. And I'm okay with Bryce kind of just chugging along for a slow, decisive decision. What about you?
Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case because, Kron Gracie's got his one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does have the ability to submit Bryce Mitchell, but I see Bryce Mitchell being able to outgun him in the wrestling department and not give him as much of an opportunity to do so. But, the good thing for them is, after the fight's over, they could talk about their love for flat earth or something,
Is that what Kron believes in?
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's what Bryce Mitchell's talked about before, too.
well,
Well.
Look, I'm not going to question the intelligibility of someone who fights for a living. You know what I mean? Like, it just, maybe you've taken some shots, and that's fine with me, man.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's move on because flat Earth isn't something I really want to talk about. Fucking, oh god. Cyril Gane taking on Alexander Volkov. Cyril Gane 12-2. His last fight was over Sergey Spivak, and before that, the quick loss to John Jones. Let me be real here. The only way that Volkov needs to fight, and he probably won't, is he needs to wrestle. And he needs to grapple. Cyril Gane's grappling, unless it has improved dramatically since March of 23, unless it has improved so much so, that is the way you beat Cyril Gane. I'm sorry, but every time I look at his grappling, it looks like shit. It looks like, and it's not just me that notices this. I have wrestling coaches, I have grappling coaches that all say the same thing. This dude sucks at grappling. He's fast and he's strong. So yes, can he keep an overhook or a whizzer and keep the body up and start to dig for the unhook? Yes, he knows what to do to a degree. Okay. I don't think that if you pinned an actual grappler against him, that it would work. Volkov, I think, is more on the striking side of things, and that's fine. Once you get up to heavyweight and stuff like that, most guys don't want to grapple.
Yeah.
And okay, fine. I get it. Big bodies, hard to move. But Cyril Gane is nimble. He is fast, and he can get those quick shots, especially over the head, over the temple. Is this fight standing? Is this on the ground? Who do you got winning?
I got Cyril gone, because it's like you touched on. I don't see Volkov actually developing a plan to beat him by tackling the grappling.
Okay.
I see it as, Volkov, who's also a very decorated kickboxer, but we haven't seen that translate as much as we have for Cyril Gane in MMA. I see him thinking that he could outstrike him. Maybe he sees some holes in his game. Maybe there's some leg kicking. I think he approaches it more of that
Hmm.
than he does. This guy can't grapple. I'm gonna go for a takedown. Because if we're being real, if Volkov could hit him with a double, take him down and ground and pound, there's no way Gon is getting up. There's zero chance. Maybe pure strength, but there's no way he has the technique to get up if Volkov has been training that. But, it's probably not going to happen. So I think Gon is probably going to either get, I would say, probably a later KO or just get a very decisive decision win.
I could see Sorogon getting a late TKO, where Volkov's tired, sucking in a lot of air, and then just gets a hard shot over the top. Look,
Yeah, we saw
Volkov,
it against Derek Lewis. He was winning that whole
yes,
fight.
yes. Um,
Then, boom.
and that's all it takes, especially from a guy like Cyril Gane. He's an athlete. Don't get me wrong. I think he actually will defend a couple takedowns if Volkov tries it. I think in Vegas they're probably gonna use the bigger cage, so I maybe not as much grappling. Because it's not gonna force as much action. Maybe they stand at distance for a bit, but Volkov has four submission victories. But he's coming off of a decision victory against Sergey Pavlovich, which crazy.
Yeah, I didn't see that fight going that way at all.
Neither
And
did
then,
I. I think everyone
that's how
thought
it
Sergey
went.
would beat Volkov, and I think that's what gave
Yeah.
that's what gives Volkov this high level opportunity here. Because make no mistake, he beats Cyril Gane, and he's kind of like at the door going, "Where's my shot? Everyone's getting the shot. Where's mine?"
Yeah.
So big fight for Alexander Volkov. If Cyril Gane does want to get back into that title picture against a guy like Tom Aspinall, that's what we need to see, because that kind of seems like what is the collision like we're getting set for here. Because both of these guys
Yeah,
have been
definitely.
kept away from each other. So we'll see what happens. You said you have Cyril Gane winning this.
Yep.
Oh,
Either late knockout or decision.
okay. I like it. I like it. Here we go. Moving on to
All
the
right. The big
co
one.
the co-main event. Shavkat
The
Rakhmonov
people's main event.
and Ian Machado Gary. Yes. The people's main event. Both these guys are undefeated, and this is probably the most exciting fight on the card. This is
Definitely.
I am going to be nervous during this fight because look, whether or not people like the character of Ian Gary, fine, whatever. Both of these dudes are crazy good fighters, and I think at any time can become a champion. I think Shavkat has more hype behind him. I think I'm not going to call it the machine is behind it just yet, but I mean, you can't tell me that he hasn't had a significant push. Both of these fighters have had a significant push from the quote unquote machine.
Yeah.
Like I think both these guys kind of got fights that were almost tailor made for them. Shavkat has
Could definitely see that.
Shavkat has 100% finish rate, dude.
That he
100%.
does.
That is in 18 fights. You don't see that in MMA. You
Nope.
don't see that. I thought Robelis de Spain was going to be that. He's already out of the UFC. He's already in Karate Combat, which I hope he does well. I hope he goes to Karate Combat, kills it. Maybe does what's that dirty boxing thing that Mike Perry's doing now,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
underground boxing. I forgot what it's called.
I forgot what it's called, but yeah, that's his new thing.
right? Go in there, like cut your teeth there, and like make a name for yourself. Um, let's just go over the wins real fast, right?
Sure.
Because Shavkat, coming from Kazakhstan's top team, just beat Stephen Thompson. Okay, got the submission over him. Um,
Hmm.
I think a lot of people thought that Stephen wouldn't win that. Um, we love Wonder Boy, but it just he was towards
Yep.
the end there.
I
Joff
was
Neal.
unfortunately on that side.
Oh, you thought he was gonna take it.
No, I thought he wasn't going to
Fair
win.
enough. Joff Neal, Neil Magny, Carlson Harris, Alex Oliveira, Cowboy, right? Um, let's see, Ian Gary, 15-0. Let's see, 7 knockouts, 1 submission, 7 decisions. So the guy can fight the whole first 3 rounds, no problem. I
Yeah,
don't think we've seen him in a 5-round fight. I don't know if this is a
I
five
don't
round
think we have
either.
either.
I think this is a 3-rounder.
They might upgrade it to a 5 rounder
Just
because we have seen them do that before, just
yeah.
for really hyped co-mains.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just do that.
I guess who
I could definitely see that being a thing.
does that favor Ian or does that favor Shavkat if it's a 3-round?
I think I think we really haven't seen Shavkat in a situation where the gas tank has been a question. Because I mean, the Jeff Neal win, I believe that win was in like the later rounds, was it not?
Jeff Neal, yes. At 4 minutes 17 seconds of the 3rd round, he got the submission.
Yeah, shout out to Jeff Neal, freaking Red Keep fan right there, dude. We're hanging out when I come to Texas.
Hey, that's cool.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things though where we've seen like Ian Gary kind of go into panic mode against MVP, where he's just like, okay, we're not striking anymore. I'm just gonna hold on to you, and we're just gonna play it out like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have Shavkat, who same amount of rounds, same amount of time. He's just like, all right, we're finishing this fight. So I feel like the longer rounds will go more towards the side of Shavkat because I feel like Shavkat, the same thing that we talk about with Alex, just has that killer instinct where he's like, I could sense if I do this, this, and that, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always going to be hunting for that finish. And I don't think he's going to let up on that. And I think that is going to be a big thing, especially with Ian Gary's default being grappling. Like when things start getting hairy, he starts grappling. You can't do that with Shavkat. Because as soon as you go into that, you're jumping into the water with a shark now. You're not just looking at it from up top.
Yes. I mean, with 10 submissions and with Ian Gary and how he has a very special way of keeping someone against the cage, ass out. And maybe that
Yeah.
helps with his back, like to just keep everything like straight. So like instead of there being any like give, because some guys like they're mostly at an angle, they're kind of leaning. He just straight up like pivots like where his like back like lower back is at, and he just goes and you see his like ass up, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think if you do that against Shavkat, a guillotine is right there, especially if he's not smart about it. I think Ian Gary is smart. I think he's a great grappler. And I think this fight is going to take place grappling. Like this is going to be a grappling exchange. I'm excited because whenever you see like 170 years grapple, it's a little bit slower. It's not the craziest, but like you get good takedowns, you get good trips, you get good little like moments in the pocket. So good dirty boxing. Hopefully some nice elbows would be nice to see from Shavkat. For Ian Gary, I mean, he really is going to have to edge out a decision. I think that is how he's going to beat Shavkat if he does. I would love to see Shavkat win this though. In terms of just I don't know putting himself out there as probably the prospect in the 170 division because that's he's got to be right there, right? He's got to be ready to go for a title shot if he beats.
Yeah. I mean, the original was Bilal Muhammad, but then he backed out
Yeah.
for whatever reason. I don't think I ever saw like an actual reason stated.
Let me find out. Bilal Muhammad. Pulls out UFC 310. Uh, per ESPN, he developed a bone infection in his foot, which will keep him out of physical activity for at least 6 weeks.
That's right.
So
Because he
that
posted that like nasty picture.
yes.
Yeah, now
Um.
I remember.
So Ian Gary can actually secure a title shot here. Um. Like he can sit there and be like, I'm the right guy. If he beats Shavkat, if he can edge out a decision, I just don't see him getting a submission over Shavkat. I would see maybe a knockout if he can get it, but Ian's just not. I don't know. When was the last time he got a knockout? Last knockout was Daniel Rodriguez. I think that was a pretty good one for Ian Gary too. Actually, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
it definitely was.
Jordan Williams, that was another good one. That was the Usman Covington 2 card. But he's not exactly. I don't know. I don't think he's knocking out top guys, or at least the guys who just have that chin. I don't think Shavkat's. I don't even think Ian Gary's gonna get knocked out. I think we're gonna see a decision here. I think we see Shavkat's first decision victory.
I'm gonna get a little crazy.
All right, I want to hear it.
I think we see some of those against the fence exchanges. I think we see Shavkat show his strength, being I think he's the stronger guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think we see a standing head and arm choke or something of the sorts.
Ooh, standing head and I want to come back to this moment and hopefully if you actually pull this prediction off, that'd be one of the craziest. Yes, yeah, you know
It'd
what?
be pretty wild.
That'd be pretty
I
good.
I think just the way that Ian Gary likes to, like you were talking about, the way that he likes to distribute his weight against the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they train for that, and maybe Shavkat's like, I know what to do here. And then we see the reversal, and we see him put Ian Gary in a situation where, because of the way he distributed his weight, there's something weird there, and now he's got him.
All right, I like it. I like it. Let's move on to our final and main event here. Alex Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. Kai Asakura, who is the newest bantamweight in the UFC, is also, I'm sorry, the newest flyweight, who's also getting his title shot here. He was the bantamweight RIZIN champion, and he had 2 defenses over there. He has wins over Manel Kape and Kyoji Horiguchi. He also has losses to Kyoji Horiguchi. Look, Alexandre Pantoja is coming off of really good 6-fight win streak, 2 of those being title defenses. So both of these guys have 2 title defenses. Both of these guys are over the 20 win mark in their career. Both in their 30s. Kai about 3 years younger, a little bit longer and taller, about 3-inch height, 2-inch reach advantage. Both fighting orthodox. Steven, can you give me your initial predictions or your initial impressions of the fight and how Kai Asakura got here?
Like, as far as like what the setup was to actually give him the shot.
No, because I think his setup was just him being the RIZIN champion, getting those 2 title defenses.
Yeah.
And was honestly at the top of the RIZIN bantamweight division for a pretty extended period of time here.
Yeah, with tons of highlights too.
Yes.
Like, it's hard to say though, like as far as the fight itself,
Mm-hmm.
like what I see happening. But I will say, based on his performance in RIZIN and all the things that we've seen, very explosive guy, likes to, get in there. It's and based off of how Pantoja looked against Steve Urseg, I think Asakura might take it. I think there might be enough there from the Urseg fight where they could go over that tape and see where Urseg was really winning. because there were some moments in that fight where I was like, dude, Urseg's about to take it,
Hmm.
and I think it is possible that Asakura might be our new champion.
Kai Asakura is a extremely strong striker. He is fast. He's very springy. Um, he has no problem kind of being that quick twitch kind of fighter where it's going to be a lot of strikes at once, maybe. My thing is this: Kai does get
Mhm.
hit a lot in his fights.
Yeah,
He takes a lot of shots, and for some of these fights, especially against Alexandre Pantoja, where he took some hard shots from Steve Urseg. I think Steve might hit a little bit harder than Kai. I think Kai's faster for sure. He's way faster than Steve Urseg was. Um, I think Steve maybe hit harder, but if at all anything, this fight needs to stay standing for Kai to win. Kai thinks he has the one shot power capability over Pantoja. I don't think that's a good way to think about it because you got to imagine here, Pantoja is an extremely good grappler, and if you are not ready for that, you are going to swim into some deep waters, and you are going to find out like, I can't swim here.
yeah,
Um, Pantoja is a good champion. I think that win over Steve Urseg was a hard fought victory because he had to come back from eating some crazy shots. By the way,
yeah,
so Pantoja has that dog in him. You know what I mean? Like we knew that when he got the win over Moreno and everything like that.
yeah. Which you'd have to have solid grappling to beat Moreno and you know take rounds from him in situations where some of those rounds are grappling heavy.
Yeah, and it's I think in this main event here you have I think Kai can get the knockout. It is his only way of winning because
I would agree with that.
you wouldn't or you would.
I would.
Okay.
I
Because
think if it goes to the ground, I think Pantoja's got the advantage.
I think Pantoja got the advantage. And if the fight extends for a longer period of time, I think Kai makes increasingly more and more mistakes. I think Pantoja doesn't make as many mistakes, but Kai is going to be faster. Kai is going to be faster, at least on tape from what I've seen. I mean, I watched a good amount of his RIZIN stuff last night, and it's just one of those things. I'm not sure on how long it's going to take for this fight to get to the ground, right? Whether or not Pantoja's like, I can strike. I went with Moreno. I went with Steve Urseg. I went with Brandon Royval, right? Twice, by the way.
Yep.
Beats Manel Kopp. Um,
Somebody who's beat Kai Asakura.
yeah, you know what I mean. And I think the UFC wants to bring in a guy like Kai Asakura from RIZIN. I don't want to say that they want him to lose because if he wins, they have an entire country that is kind of rooting behind Kai Asakura. It's a whole new market, right? Or at least just another expansion of that market.
Yeah, and
Alexander,
plus we get to play the game of it's like, okay, how does this guy favor against this guy now? How does it like, and then that brings Brandon Moreno back into the picture
yes, it
because
does.
we're not going to see him fight Pantoja again anytime soon, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But if we got a new champion, Brandon Moreno's coming off a really good win, put him back up.
Yeah, over Amir Albazi. I think Kaikar France is right there, right? He just got that win over Steve Urseg.
Yeah, that would be a really good. That'd be a really good fight too.
Yeah, the flyweight division is so scary good that it kills me, because they get little to no recognition sometimes. I think the hardcore fans for sure see them and they go, we know what you guys are about. We know that this is going to be it's going to be the most fast-paced fight of the night, I think.
Yeah.
These guys are quick. Maybe they don't always have the knockout power, but I think that's because these guys are in such good shape that it's harder for you to get knocked out in that condition. You know what I mean? Like some of these heavyweights that get knocked out like it's nothing. I don't want to say it's because their diets or their lifestyle is terrible, but like some of these heavyweights don't look like athletes. They're just
Yeah,
heavyweights
which
who
is
happen to fight.
it's fair because I mean, let's be real. Most heavyweights are just not to take away from the fact that not saying they don't train or anything like that, but most of them just rely heavily on I could hit really really hard and I could swing for a round.
And I think that's changing. That has changed within the past 5 years. Of course, you got John Jones right there at the top. Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Jailton Almeida. I guess Derek Lewis isn't really a good count for that. Tai Tuivasa is not really a good example of that. But those guys are getting phased out, though.
Yeah.
So the level of athleticism overall is going up, and it's not just the flyweights, but the flyweights are going to still accentuate the athleticism more than anyone else. That's how we get those crazy exchanges like Brandon Moreno and why am I blanking on his name? God of War. Davison Figueiredo.
Davison Figueroa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where if anything, we're in for a really good fight. I don't think this fight's going to be boring. Even if Pantoja takes it to the ground, I think he's going to be smart, and I think he's going to control, and he's going to try to maybe slow Kai Asakura down. You know what I mean? Because Kai's going to be maybe nervous, actually. You know what? Let me ask you this. Do you think Kai has any nerves? Is the UFC's lights a little too bright? Or given the fact that he's already fought at RIZIN at the highest level, do you think this is just another night at work for him?
I'm going to be real. I think as far as us as live viewers versus Japan, I don't know the actual numbers, but I would guess they probably fight in much bigger places than they fight over here.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's going to be much of a thing. Maybe the idea of it being that you're on the bigger stage as far as like more eyes are going to see this overall.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's going to get in his head because if that doesn't get in your head in front of most likely a much larger audience
Mm-hmm.
over in Japan, I don't think it's going to be much of a big deal over here.
So, well, let's talk about that real quick. So, even if it's not a big deal here, right? Do you think there's some amount of pride that Kai wants to be able to carry that belt back to Japan and go, no, these RIZIN guys, like, we're it. Like, we're the guys you want to fight. Because the UFC hasn't done any cross promotion. The only promotion that really did that was Bellator.
Yeah.
And they recently got bought out by PFL, and that's been a whole shit show. But if anything, if Kai wins, right, takes the belt back to Japan, what does this do for Pantoja? Does he get an immediate title shot back?
I think it depends on how he loses.
Okay.
I think
Quick knockout. Quick second round, first round knockout, flying knee.
he gets a rematch just because they want to make sure it wasn't a fluke.
You know who I would want to see in a title fight against Kai if he wins? I would actually watch Kai Kara France. I think that
would be a really good one.
I think that's such a good fight. Both where like Kai just kind of brings this like crazy energy, right? I think Tatsuro Taira. Did he win his last fight? No, he lost to Brandon Royval. So he's kind of out of that. Like you said, Brandon Moreno's always there, and I think to see Brandon Moreno fight at such a high level constantly, he's arguably one of my favorite fighters, like active right now.
Definitely. It's hard not to love the guy.
But I just want to finish out the show with this quote here, and I just want to get your take on it and whether or not you think this is too narrow-minded here.
All right.
My advantage over Pantoja is that I can finish him in one shot. So if he makes even one mistake, I'm confident that I can KO him in one shot. Is this the mentality he needs to have, or do you think that Kai is not going to be able to handle the grappling?
I think partially that is what he needs to win because he needs that confidence in his mind that he has something over Pantoja that Pantoja cannot match. But at the same time, I don't know if he'll be able to get that shot because it's the same thing with, Connor and Habib. You have the ability to end the fight, but you're so worried that the shot's going to come in that you're not loading up the way that you would to actually get that one shot.
Ooh, that's a good. Yeah, he's especially if he's. Mm, if Pantoja can create those feints, and especially if he just goes for the shot like in the first round, I get it. Maybe he's not going to get it like early on. That's fine. Get him to think about the shot. Get him to think it's coming. So as soon as he goes down in for the double or for the single leg, right, for maybe like a snatch single, Kai goes to defend. Boom, he can pop him over the top with the right. Now he doesn't know what the fuck's coming. That being said, this is going to be an interesting fight. Pantoja's already said, Kai have amazing skills, but wherever the fight goes, it's going to be my fight. UFC 310, I want to finish Kai Asakura. I want to bring his head for my table. Look, he's asking for violence.
Words, and he's delivered. So.
Yes, he has, and I hope he does deliver again. This fight's coming up here on the 7th, this Saturday in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. Steven Shred, as always, dude, I appreciate you hopping on, talking UFC, talking MMA. We have so many more events coming up. Covington versus Buckley is going to be a fun card. There's a lot of names on that I think are like that. That's just an insanely fun free fight. But UFC 310 pay-per-view, I believe me and you are going to be watching hopefully together. If hopefully I don't have work, but if not, I'll have it on my phone no matter what. So Steven Shred, thank you, sir. And I will catch you guys on the next one.
See ya.
Fuck. I went to the wrong thing.